and this is Luminous on YouTube. Okay, titignan ko lang yung if I have an audio and then we can proceed. Magandang gabi sa lahat ng nakatambay ngayon. Okay, double checking lang. We'll see if we have an audio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just check that. Aha. Hold on. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hi, magandang gabi. Okay, Learn with Teacher Jeff. Hang on, I'm just fixing my speaker. Kasi dun lumilitaw yung audio ko. So, give me a second. Turning off my Bluetooth. There you go. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles and this is Luminous. We have two topics for today. Ang unang topic natin is Charterchange. Oops, parang ang taas. Charterchange will be our first topic, and then for a second topic, it will be, of course, the proceedings kanina sa Supreme Court. I hope you're all ready for all of these discussions. While I fix my stuff. There you go. Nahuhulog siya.
Just remove it.
Okay. We're starting na now. All right. Today is an auspicious day. It is the 2nd of February, and because it is also the anniversary of the ratification of the 1987 Constitution. As you know, after the 1986 revolution, nagkaroon ng temporary, there was a Freedom Constitution from 1986, and then the handpicked committee of Cory started to draft the 1987 Constitution. They held a plebiscite in October, and then in February, they finished the draft in October, and the ratification was made on February 2. Okay, the day was voting. 81 members of the panel that was discussing resolution of both houses number 2. The members of the panel were both regular and ex officio. 64 voted for resolution of both houses number 2. 3 rejected it, and then 3 abstained. The rest were either absent or did not cast their vote, especially the chairman, ako Bicol Representative Alfredo Garbin Jr., did not cast a vote. Okay, masaya to. So, the panel recommended or did not recommend including Section 7, which says that foreigners can own private lands. Okay? So, tinanggal po nila yung provision na yon, and then they ratified the rest of it. However, before they voted on that, there was the reception of information or advice from legal luminaries. One of them, Adolfo Ascuna, former Justice of the Supreme Court and advisor to President Cory for the longest time. He recommended to review the placement of the term unless otherwise provided by law. So this is for me the best compromise for our objections, kasi that is an overbroad phrase, unless otherwise provided by law. And that law can provide for a lot of different things other than the nationality requirement that the Constitution states. So there are certain nationality requirements for certain endeavors, and what Congress is trying to do is allow the Congress to make the decision to change the nationality requirements. So dahil masasama lang yung placement dun sa unless otherwise provided by law, Justice Ascuna said, i-review nyo yun, you put it in the proper place and make sure nakahiwalay siya, because you're only trying to change the provisions that give flexibility, na pwedeng maging flexible. Pero dun sa mga permanently protected such as natural resources, public lands, national parks, timberlands, and all of that, and agricultural lands, then yung mga yon, those have to be kept away from the phrase unless otherwise provided by law. which was our objection from the start. So yun yung masaya dito. The Congress, I hope either they heard us or they heard at least the resource speakers who were speaking, who had the same, kumbaga, the very same opinions as we had. Then if Congress had heard that, at least the panel heard that, so ngayon it will now go to plenary. The cat is not hungry, he is just noisy. That's Belial. Hi, Belly. I think he smells another cat. Okay? So that's kind of like cheerful news for today. The panel to ratify for charter change in Congress has passed resolution of both houses number 2 with changes, and those changes now have better safeguards for the protection of our public lands, provided they put that unless otherwise provided by law phrase somewhere else. Although it is still the on the Senate still has to weigh in also. So ang sinasabi naman ng Senado, it's possible naman to encourage foreign direct investments by creating laws for this purpose. Di ba? Okay. O sige, I'm sure you're waiting for this, our second topic now. But I would just like to point out that it seems auspicious that the panel's passing of the charter change provisions comes at a good timing, an auspicious date, February 2 being the anniversary of the ratification of the 1987 Constitution. So parang on the day that they ratified the Constitution, we are now proposing changes to it. Okay? Now, teka, ang init. I need to get my electric fan, but don't worry, we're not going to stop the broadcast. So today, there were oral arguments in the Supreme Court on the anti-terrorism law. Haba ng mic ko. So the Congress today, the Supreme Court today heard on oral arguments the 37 petitions to the Supreme Court to declare the anti-terrorism law unconstitutional. So, masaya. I see what said there, Elmer Bernardino. Anyway, as I was saying, the Supreme Court heard on oral argument the petitions of the people feel that the law should be declared unconstitutional. Okay? Kita niyo na yung bahay ko tuloy. All the gulo and all the paintings. Okay. This was fun because in the latter part, 3 justices were able to, only 3 justices were able to interpolate or to question the petitioners. They were Justice Carandang, Justice Perlas Bernabé. The questioning was fairly short and fairly sweet, so I have noted this one. Okay, with Justice Carandang, she asked questions dito kay Attorney Joc, no? Okay. She asked, what was their objection was that Section 4 is vague and should be declared unconstitutional. Kasi sabi nila, especially that part where the law seems to state na may mga actions na naging illegal lang dahil masama yung intensyon. But that was demolished later on during the questioning of Justice Leonen. Pero yun yung sinasabi ni Attorney Joc. No? He was saying na, halimbawa, pagrarally, di ba? Hindi naman masama magrally, that's not an illegal act. Pero kung may intensyon gumawa ng masama, then we're leaving it to the law enforcer to make that kind of interpretation to determine whether or not a crime has been committed. At para sa kanila, hindi dapat left to the police officer. Dapat tayong mga ordinaryong citizens, dapat alam natin kapag kung anong actions will constitute an illegal act. So that was the first point. Mere membership naman in a terrorist organization, yun yung isang question ni Justice Carandang, and this was answered by Attorney Molo. Sinabi ni Justice Carandang, what about mere membership in a terrorist organization? Ang sinasabi ni Attorney Molo, dapat yung mere membership, hindi dapat pinaparusahan yan. Dapat, pati yung kailangan, merong ginawa. So, para sa kanila, hindi dapat, kasi para siyang yun, di ba? Parang guilt by association lang. Member ka ng grupo, other members are the ones who committed terrorist acts, karandang had managed not be cured, sabi ni Attorney Cortez, by any standard. Medyo ito, I think this was one of the weakest arguments that was presented today. Kasi yung sinasabi niya, void for vagueness ang Section 4. So sabi ni Justice Carandang, naglagay naman ng IRR. At yung IRR doon, nag-i-indicate ng procedure at saka ng kung what standards can be observed para meron tayong basis to determine which acts are illegal or not. So, ang sinasabi lang ni Atty. Colmenares, hindi dapat sa IRR nilalagay yon, dapat nasa batas yon. Okay? She also elicited yung questions on frozen accounts, and this was, I understand, answered by Attorney Evelyn Orsua. Sabi they were questioning, bakit ang tagal-tagal, di ba? 6 months mo mahahawakan, 6 months daw frozen ang mga accounts. And how long is that going to be? How long afterwards? Hindi yata sure kasi based on the law, parang hindi sigurado kung ganong katagal, kung may extensions pa ba yan, and what reasons for it to revert either to the owner or to the state yung pera. May detention period at ito ang ina-argue ni Congressman Lagman. Sabi niya, tinanong siya ni Justice Carandang, cannot Congress create a law extending the period? Hindi yun sinagot, and this was significant. For me, this was another weak point on the part of the petitioners. Sinasabi ni, tinanong siya, point blank, si Congressman Lagban, tinanong ni Justice Carandang, diretsahan, hindi po pwedeng gumawa, ano yung nirereklamo ninyo dun sa 14-day holding period? Ang sabi ni Congressman Lagman, dati hanggang 3 days lang under the Human Security Act. Pero ngayon, ginawa nating 14 days. Ano yung standard nun? Ano yung basis nun? And so on. So, tinanong lang siya ni Justice Carandang, well, bakit? Wala ba sa powers ng Kongreso yun? Hindi ba pwedeng sabihin ng Kongreso, o sige, imbes na 3 days yung period before you file charges, hindi ba pwedeng going 14 days? Yun, and that for me was significant, napatigil din ako, kasi hindi niya sinagot. In other words, they had no argument for that, and that was deadly on the 14 holding period. A simple question was, can Congress do this? The answer is actually yes. Kasi ano ba yung basis even for the 48-hour period, yung dun sa revised penal code kasi, if you had committed a crime, tapos na-aresto ka, warrantless yung arrest, pwede kang i-hold ng police for a maximum of 48 hours only before you have to be brought to the prosecutor to be charged or you have to be released. Sa Human Security Act, tinaasan nila yon for terrorist acts for up to 3 days without charges. Okay. Ngayon, dito sa anti-terrorism law, ginawa na 14 days with the possibility of extensions plus may mga safeguards. Sabi ngayon nila, that's unusual, it becomes a penalty and all that. No, hindi. Sinasabi ni Justice Carandang, holding period lang siya. Actually, it's a detention period. So, hindi ba pwede gawin ng Congress gumawa ng batas para yung holding period na yon ay imbis na 3 days, 14 days. At yon hindi sinagot ni Congressman Lagman. So, nakikita natin, nag-unfold na dito. Si Justice Perlas Banabe naman, nagtanong din. Sabi niya, is Section 4 an invention or patterned after international standards? Tinanong niya ito kay Attorney Shell Jokno. Sabi ni Attorney Jokno, partly, pero hindi daw exactly, parang partly invented and all that. So, ang ginawa ni Justice Perlas Bernabe, she cited 3 international issuances. The UN Security Council Resolution 1566, the International Convention for the Suppression of Terrorist Bombings, the International Convention for the Suppression of Acts of Nuclear Terrorism. At yung mga yun daw, halos kapareho nung ating ginawa, yung ating batas. Yung Section 4 natin, hangong-hango dun sa tatlong international issuances, international conventions na iyon. So medyo na ano nga si Attorney Jock mo. Sabi niya, hindi kasi those laws talk about crimes or predicate crimes, criminal acts or predicate crimes. Doon daw sa Section 4 natin, hindi nakalagay na criminal acts or predicate crimes. Doon sa Human Security Act kasi, para makonsider na act of terrorism yon, kailangan munang madala sa piskal at magsabi yung piskal na mayroong probable cause bago yan makonsider na terrorist act. In other words, ang haba ng proseso, kailangan mong may probable cause bago mo pa siya mapatawan ng charge for terrorism. Samantalang doon naman sa you don't have to call it a criminal act doon sa anti-terrorism law. Kasi pag sinabi mong criminal act, dadaan pa yun dun uli sa mahabang proseso of establishing probable cause for another crime before you can charge for the crime of terrorism. Okay. So, sabi ni Justice Perlas Bernabe din, inciting to commit terrorism, can the IRR not fill in the blanks dun sa elements? Sabi ni Attorney Jock, hindi daw dapat ginagawa ng executive, kumbaga hindi ginagawa dapat ng Anti-Terrorism Council yung kakulangan ng batas. Hindi dapat fill in the blanks ng IRR. Well, hindi siya sinagot ni Justice Perlas. Sabi niya, planning, training, facilitating the commission, and material. So, ang tinatanong niya, wala bang overlaps dito? At sinasabi ni Attorney Jock, meron nga. Kasi you can be charged for Section 4, Section 6, Section 7, Section 12. Parang kunwari, yung isang tao nagbigay ng pera, pero tumulong din siya in the commission of the crime. Or nagbigay siya ng pera, tapos nag-charge ng conspiracy, and so on. So, baka magka-doble-doble daw yung mga crimes. But is this a reason to declare the law unconstitutional? Not necessarily. Kasi, pwedeng yung Korte Suprema yung magbigay liwanag, depende sa mga facts ng kaso. Okay. And finally, tinanong si Attorney Evelyn Ursua at tungkol dun sa mga freezing of assets uli. And she repeated what she was saying earlier na yung mga pag-freeze ng assets, dapat alam natin kung ganong katagal and all that. Okay. And then in the last part, Attorney Molo was questioned by Justice Leonen. And the primary question was on what we have been discussing all day dito sa Luminous. So let's talk about facial challenges now. Okay? Ako yung facial challenge. Di ba sabi natin, bago ka umakyat sa Korte Suprema, kailangan may mga requirements yan. Kailangan meron kang cause of action. Para meron kang cause of action, kailangan may ma-establish kang karapatan. Yung karapatan na yon, may nag-violate, may taong nag-violate nun, may act of violation, at yung in the act of violating that na sagasaan or nalabag yung iyong karapatan at mayroong damage doon through that act. Ngayon, nung umakyat sa Korte Suprema itong 37 petitioners, wala silang ganon. Ang claim nila, exempted sila doon sa pagbibigay ng sa cause of action kasi ang tina-target nila is facial, meaning on its face, as in facial. On the face of the law, ibig sabihin nun, dun sa simpleng pagbabasa ng ordinaryong tao, nakikita na dun sa batas na may problema, na unconstitutional. Yun. So, dito, ang sinasabi nila, yung unconstitutionality dun sa simpleng pagbabasa ng batas, says that it is unconstitutional nga. So, unconstitutional why? Kasi nga vague daw yung Section 4. Kasi nga daw may mga it could be an ex post facto law or it could be a bill of attainder. Okay? As always, i-define natin what is an ex post facto law. An ex post facto law will punish somebody for acts that were committed before before it became a crime or the law had been passed to take into effect. Ang example natin dati was putting your elbows on the table at what if in 2021 I made a law saying na I'm the Congress, gumawa kami ng batas, bawal maglagay ng elbows on the table, may pataw na 1 taong kulong. Tapos huhulihin mo si accused A at sasabihin mo, noong November 1999, you put your elbows on the table. Yung batas ginawa ng 2021. That is an ex post facto law at binabawal yan ng ating saligang batas. Na ngayon, meron ding issue tungkol sa tinatawag na Bill of Attainder. Ang Bill of Attainder kasi, it means na nag-declare ka ng criminal act at pinaparusahan mo yung taong yon through a law and there is no due process. Walang trial. So in this case, kunwari noon, meron tayong tinatawag na Anti-Subversion Act. So dun sa Anti-Subversion Act, nagdi-declare ka ng na criminal organization yung Communist Party. Kung inaaresto yung mga miyembro nito nang walang trial, then that would be a Bill of Attainder. Pero ngayon, kunwari, an example would be i-declare ko na lang si accused A, nagpasa ang Kongreso ng batas, accused A is now a criminal. So, walang trial, huhulihin ng pulis kasi may batas that says he's a criminal. So, walang trial, walang due process, walang kahit ano, yon kinulong siya. That is a Bill of Attainder. Ngayon, ang sinasabi nila is that on the face of this law, it is void for vagueness and possibly a Bill of Attainder and possibly an ex post facto law. Sabi ni Justice Leonen, what are your facts? Okay. So, ang sinasabi ni ni Attorney Molo is, the fact is that Congress passed a law. No, those are not facts. That is not a case. Pinipilit ni Attorney Molo that the mere passing of this law itself is illegal because on its face, it is void and all of that. And sabi ni Justice Leonen, how can you test the illegality of the law if there is no person who has committed a crime? What are the facts of your case? Ang sinasabi ni Attorney Molo is, syempre, there's the possibility that these laws will be abused. Diba? So, ang sinasabi ni Justice Leonen, ang dinadalam nyo sa amin, yung takot ninyo, yung fears ninyo. Hindi ninyo dinadala sa akin na mayroong isang tao na nalabag ang kanyang karapatan dito, nalabag ang kanilang karapatan at dahil doon, kailangan natin i-declare na unconstitutional ang anti-terrorism law. So, on that note, after the 3 justices had asked their questions of the several lawyers who were there, nag-adjourn until Tuesday when the oral argument will proceed again. Okay? So, yun yung sinasabi natin earlier on that a facial challenge, kasi sinabi na ng Korte Suprema, and there are a lot of cases on this, ang sinasabi ng ating Korte Suprema, you cannot invalidate a law, a criminal law, and this is a criminal law, the Anti-Terrorism Act. Hindi pwedeng i-invalidate ang isang batas on question the constitutionality of a criminal law on a facial challenge. Hindi pwede yon kasi daw magdidepend yung decision ng hukuman doon sa particular na detalye at mga facts ng kaso ng akusado. Kung walang akusado, how can you declare the law void? Lalong-lalo na kung kunwari, at that time that you were asking the law to be declared void, marami nang iniimbestigahan, may mga nakakulong na, and all of that. What are you going to do? Lahat ba yun pakakawalan ninyo? It will always depend on what acts this person committed. Okay. So, okay na ba yan? Do you have questions? Let's look at your questions na now. Pero at least nasusundan ninyo, no? Because fairly simple naman yung mga arguments, and they're easily understood by the layman, particularly since nag-discuss rin naman tayo earlier on. Ngayon, before we continue, don't forget to like and share this video, especially dun sa Twitter, Don't forget also to check later on sa Luminous kung naka-like and follow na kayo. And if you are not yet, if you haven't yet liked and followed, please do so immediately after this video. And don't forget to like on all of the comments and to comment on our posts on Luminous. Yun na lang po ang hinihingi namin konting tulong sa sa Luminous kasi tina-throttle kami ngayon. Okay? Let me check. Magandang gabi sa lahat. Kanina kasi, medyo slow start tayo ngayon. Rosalie Tapnio, Roldan Dan Renoco, Ahmed Sung, Greg Oliva, Corazon Mateo Doruelo, Ophirian Shemites, Bernalisa Hortiliano, Avelino Taroy, Ronnie Lynn, Don Alex, My Munchkid 31, Jemshid Mumar, Alpax the Great. Laging na naman daw ang ISP ko. Huwag mag-alala, makakahabol din yan. Okay? Sabi ni Josh is probable cause was always discussed. Hi kay Vida 615. Sabi ni puro good evening pa to eh. Okay, basta daw present. Duque Gadon, Glenn Chong, Doc Willie Ong, Hontiveros, Jinggoy, JV, Hercito for Senator 2022. Hontiveros? I'm not impressed. Share daw, sabi ni Ophirian Shemites, share. Magandang gabi sa lahat. Hi kay Putong Inamoy. Azucena Doruelo. Na-share at na-like na daw. Okay. Wala pa kayong questions? I swear, Lagman mentioned as an example NPA probably because it will affect them. CPP, NPA, NDF Corporation is a business, not a party. Good evening, sabi ni Vivian Hickley. She's watching from England. Thank you po sa walang sawas pagpapaliwanag. Opo. You know, some people take that against us. I swear, sabi ni Elmer Bernardino, I swear, about 75% of Justice Leonen's questions against Attorney Molo was answered by Leonen. Attorney Molo was schooled like a kindergartner. I think the problem wasn't that he didn't know the answers, pero it was more because he was compelling, he was forcing some of the answers, even if he knew that he wasn't exactly answering the questions. Okay? Matutuloy yung interpellation ni Leonen next week? Yes. Kasi tinanong ni Josh Espiritu. Yes, Justice Leonen said that Attorney Molo can study for a week and then he will ask again on Tuesday. Yung mga karambolista na iba, baka may tanong po. Oo nga naman. Blessed night. I like Justice Leonen today. Binasag niya yung yabang ni Attorney Molo III. Ayaw na tuloy makipag-eye to eye. I think we have good days and bad days in court. It's not always, I think na yun na nga eh. Oh, and that's something that you all have to understand. There are two kinds of issues here. The first are the preliminary issues, and the second are what we call the substantive issues. Sa preliminary issues, yung tanong dyan ng Korte Suprema, anong na-damage sa inyo para pumunta kayo dito sa hukuman namin, para humingi ng relyebo, 'di ba? Ng relief. So, ang sinasabi nila is ang relief na hinihingi namin is to declare this law unconstitutional pero wala pa sa aming naagrabyado ng batas na ito. And that is something that the Supreme Court can actually use to dismiss this case. Kasi ibig sabihin, there is no case. Yun ang sinasabi ni Justice Leonen. Although, we need to be careful. The questions don't necessarily mean that that will be the resolution o yan ang magiging decision nila. So, just because they ask this and just because sinasagot nila ng ganito, hindi ibig sabihin no, na yun ang lalabas sa kanilang resolution later on. Kasi mamaya sa kakabasa ng ibang mga pleadings, baka naman dun sa mga memoranda na ifa-file nila, ay nandun yung mga kasagutan at madipensa nila yung kanilang panig. Okay. Sabi ni Emily Korisaki, hindi ko maintindihan sila joke no, yung nangyari ba sa Marawi, bali wala lang sa kanila yon. Mababaw pa ba na dahilan yon para hindi gumawa ng batas against terrorism? Oo. Tama ka naman doon. Ang sinasabi lang nila, ito yung concern ko. Kasi kahit nung lumabas yung Human Security Act na napakalamya, may mga nag-question din yon. And I'm seeing Nery Colmenares there, bayan muna also petition to declare the Human Security Act as unconstitutional. Yung mga karapatan, KMU, and all of these parties, nag-question din sila sa Human Security Act. Now, yung ibang mga colleagues nila, they are also questioning the anti-terrorism law. So parang sa akin, wala yatang maipapasa na batas that would make you happy with regard to filing an with regard to any kind of anti-terrorism act, di ba? Sabi ni Ma'am Christina, ang galing-galing ni Justice Leonen, sana sa lahat ng cases, pero dito sa ginagawa niya, I approve. Actually, in any oral argument, magaling si Justice Leonen. He's always, parating nag-aaral yun eh. So, it's very unnerving minsan, the way he researches. So, naano nga ako kay Attorney Molo because one of the classic mistakes that you can commit is to argue with the justice who is asking you. Your job is to clarify your case, not to argue. Your job is to present. Your job is to answer questions in such a way as you can highlight your own case. Hindi ka makikipag-argue. The justice will ask you questions in the hopes that you can further defend it. But if not, don't argue with the justice. Oh, thank you. And kay Alan Joel Anisieto. Magandang gabi. Uy, Joel, Alan. Alan, watching from Tacloban City. I love Tacloban kasi kinakarga ng radio station ng DWIZ sa inyo yung Karambola at saka Tambayan. Si Ma'am Jacqueline Shaw, I think, is in, Australia? Or Canada. Yung definition ng terrorism, sabi ni Kitts, that the petitioners are questioning is almost similar to the definition of the UN, the US, and other countries. As a matter of fact, it was patterned after 3 international conventions. Diba? Erwin Martinez says, late ako kaya wala akong questions. Baka sa cha-cha topic na lang. Tapos na yung cha-cha topic, but you can ask now. Magandang gabi. Sabi ni Eva Araneta Sevilla, magkaroon po quality politician sana daw. Need po kayo sa ating gobyerno para magkaroon ng quality politicians. Ako pala yon sa ating bansa. Hindi, quality vloggers na lang. Di ba? Sa tatlong justices, kanino po bumilib sa line of questioning? Alam nyo, wala sa line of questioning yan. Of course, Justice Leonen is always good pag oral arguments. But Justice, you never think that Justice Perlas Bernabe is a pushover, matalinations. And, well, Justice Rosemary Carandang, well, I've known her since she was a Court of Appeals Justice. Not very personally, we've only met once or twice. But, she seems very informal, pero maganda rin siya maggawa ng decisions. And deadly din yung mga tanong. They're just kasi she's so motherly, the way she asks her questions, tapos semi-formal, ganon, na hindi natin nahahalata na deadly na yung mga tanong niya. So, yun, sabi ni Ma'am Christina, habang nakikinig ako, merong mga light bulb moments. Ito yung sinasabi ng Luminous, I feel so mentally busog. Uy, salamat po. Sabi ni Attorney No Case, baka ma-delay yung ATL decision, baka antayin na naman ng NBank yung opinion niya. But it doesn't harm us. Walang TRO. Ibig sabihin, the law is already passed. It's already being used. Dineclare nga na terrorist organizations ang CPP at NPA at saka ang Abu Sayyaf and all these other terrorist groups except the NDF. So, ibig sabihin, tuloy-tuloy lang yung pag-implement ng batas dahil walang TRO, it will just keep on going. Hindi tayo yung nadadamage. There's no damage. So, you have to appreciate the fact na walang TRO. Sabi ni Ahmed, tingin ko, babawi si Justice Leonen sa susunod. Huwag naman tayo mag-speculate pa. like I said, he's always very, very good. And if he's on your side, he's very, very, very good. Pero when he's not, ang sakit pakinggan, but he's still very, very good. Ito, nandito si Dwayne Segador. Naka-like and share na daw siya. Buti naman, Dwayne. Si Dwayne po nagpadala yan ng chocolate cake. Kaya mabait ako sa kanya. Sabi ni Alan Perez, bakit may habol daw na dalawang IP at the last minute? Oh yes, we forgot about that. Sige, let's discuss that. In the morning, at about 10 o'clock, may naghabol na isa pang additional petitioner, dalawa pang additional petitioners represented by their counsel. Nag-file sila ng last-minute petition with a motion to admit and to be made part of the oral arguments. Kasi daw, napagkamalan daw silang NPA and they were detained at supposedly tinorture ng military. And they're saying they want to have the anti-terrorism law declared unconstitutional dahil sila daw ay naging biktima ng pag-i-enforce nito. Hindi po diniscuss ng court kanina, or I didn't hear it, but as far as I could see, hindi pa kailangan pang desisyonan yung kanilang petition for it to be admitted. And this is the other part that Justice Leonen was talking about, diba? From the time that the law passed in 2019, so a year plus na ever since, and there are plenty of possibilities to bring the cases up to court. Halimbawa, yun na nga, nag-declare na ang ATC ng terrorist organizations. Yung mga members ng mga yon, they're the ones who can ask for relief from the court. Na-declare na sila. So, ano yung next? If their assets had been frozen by the AMLAC, their bank accounts have been frozen, yan, pwede silang umakyat sa Korte Suprema. Diba? But none of them are saying have become victims. Diba? In fact, sinabi ng court, oh, everybody here, you still have to tell us what your standing to sue is. Ano yung basis ninyo for this? So we will have to deal first with the preliminary. Sabi, nagpapabati si Kids Bar, ha? Alam mo, kids, parang di tayo nag-uusap sa phone. Sabi ni Ma'am Bernalisa Ortiliano, naalala kita sa professor ko dati, klaro ang paliwanag, walang side comments, direct yung mga punto. Okay. Sabi ni Learn with Teacher Jeff, no point arguments, NPA. Good evening. Yun ba talaga si Justice Leonen? Sincero ba siya o nagpapanggap lang? Just asking. No, ganito po yun. All of the justices there will ask questions, and the purpose of asking those questions is to clarify your side of the case. Ngayon, kung hindi maayos yung mga sagot mo, ibig sabihin, hindi mo na ikaklaro yung panig mo. In which case, you're losing the argument. The job of the lawyer is to convince the magistrates. And in this case, the justices of the Supreme Court. Kung hindi mo ma-present yung kaso mo in a way na ma-convince mo yung mga justices, then matatalo ka. So the justices can ask any questions. Whether the answers will be panig dun sa petitioner or against it, they don't care and it doesn't matter because what they're trying to do is clarify the case. Yun lang. Hindi yun ibig sabihin na kung ba't yung mga sagot ay panig dun sa gusto nating side. It doesn't mean that that justice himself or herself is for that side. So don't be misled. The justices will ask what we call probing questions. Dukutin nila talaga yung mga hindi mo sinasabi, yung mga ini-evade mo ng mga tanong, hahanapin nila yon. And they will ask. And they will ask because they will try to expose the weaknesses of your case or draw out its strengths. Just so it is clear for them what your side is. Okay? Asking again po, sabi ni Josh, tatapusin nila yung 15 justices, then sa defense naman, ganun po mangyayari, o si Soljan Kalida naman next week. Hindi. It's yung petitioners lahat muna. And lahat naman, not all the justices will probably ask questions. So it might just be which justices have said they're willing to, or they want to ask questions. Sinabi pa ni Molo, your line of thinking, sabi ni Putong Ina. It's not a line of thinking, di ba? This is a long line of arguments, or well, actually, of decisions of the Supreme Court that support already the fact that you cannot make a facial challenge to a criminal case. And so, baka dun pa lang sa ang nangyayari dito is Justice Leonen is exposing the fact that baka nga wala pa silang case itself. They might have to dismiss it until dumating yung until meron ng tao na naantala o naging biktima ng batas na ito. Tinatanong ni Kits kung 13, 36 actually, or 37 ang petitioners dito. Sabi ni Elmer Bernardino, are the petitioners looking so far to the future that they became manghuhula? Are they really applying their prophylactic remedy or protecting somebody else? Well, I think I can't ascribe any evil motives on their part. Some of them really are just, well, some of them might be trying to make a name for themselves, but it's more like, alam mo yan, they see something wrong and they want to question it at the earliest possible time. That's my good faith answer to that one. Meaning, I have a mean and snarky answer, but I'm not gonna say it. Sabi ni The Noise, he's asking about the Magna Carta for health workers. Bakit di daw na-i-implement? I think you might have to file a case. Both administrative and criminal cases. Wala pa daw yung home radio sa Davao. Wala pa sa home radio ang tambayan sa Davao. Oo, hindi pa kinukuha ng Kasi it's the local stations will ask for it. So you have to write to your local stations and ask them to carry the tambayan. Sabi ni Ophirian Shemites, you dissected it on point. I understand it well. If ordinary citizens can vote for a dean of the College of Law, UP, boboto ko. Ay talaga, I am not worthy para maging dean ng College of Law. I don't think I'm worthy to teach sa kanila. What I'm doing lang is explaining the situation and so that you can be part of the national conversation. So that when we discuss this, when we discuss with the group, then it will be, when you discuss with fellow citizens, when you talk about it on social media, you are armed with information, you're armed with the proper information about it. Also, so you don't get upset. That's sa ibang sometimes we get upset when we don't understand the situation or we misunderstand the situation. Parang remember yung comparison between Tim Yap's group and the piston drivers? Dami nang na-agitate until we explained those are two completely different cases. That's why we're doing this. Ngayon, on a personal side note, merong humihirit pa dun sa social media na umaaway sa amin. And as it turns out, because of the because of the changes on RBH2, it seems that we were right in our arguments all along. So dahil tama kami, and I want to be petty today, naninira sila. And saying wala kaming mga trabaho, kaya kami may oras mag-social media. The truth is, we barely have enough time anymore for ourselves. We have work, we have day jobs, we have radio, we have law, and we have this. But Attorney Ahmed and I, we do this, we blog and all of this. One, because it's fun, and two, because ito yung kawang gawa eh. The more people who understand what we call the national conversation nga, then the more we are capable of participating in decisions of our government, di ba? This is what nation building is about. Para magkakasama tayo. Di ba, ang imagery natin is iisang bangka tayo. Pero kung hindi kasi naiintindihan ng lahat, parang they get left behind. And getting left behind, whether it is in understanding government processes, understanding governance and all of that, and being part of this entire nation that's going hopefully in one direction, that is nation building. And that's what we're trying to do. We're doing our part for nation building. Now, we may not have much to donate and all of that, but we do have the time and some knowledge to be able to discuss this. And hopefully, there is some kind of snowballing effect here, diba? Because everybody's on social media. When you talk with other people, then that information gets spread around. Remember, knowledge and information are the only things that you can share without diminishing yourself. Diba? Sabi ni Dwayne, si Kits pa daw ang iboboto niya sa Senado para matinong politiko. Naks, may Kits Bar fan club pala dito. Sabi ni Ma'am Bernadette Cortez, so happy nakahabol kami dito sa Toronto. Araw-araw, karambola at tambayan. I hope you enjoyed tambayan kanina. As usual, it's always fun with JP and Attorney Glenn Chong, di ba? Bakit pinipilit ng mga petitioners ang pagsikil di umano ng freedom of speech sa ATA sa oral arguments? Okay, freedom of speech, yes. That was in fact mentioned. It was one of the arguments of Attorney Chel Jokno. Doon sa parang incitement, 'di ba? Doon sa terrorism. And the reason I didn't discuss it was because nahihinaan ako doon sa argumento. Because there are other cases. Halimbawa, yun nga there is the anti-bomb joke law, 'di ba? And that punishes a person for certain utterances. It doesn't violate free speech because it is dangerous speech. So inciting to terrorism is in fact dangerous speech that can and should be punished, and its behavior regulated. Meron pa There's another issue that it was Attorney Molo also who was trying to defend it. I'll get back to that in a little while. Yung with Justice Leonen. Kasi yung sinasabi niya is parang bill of attainder, parang ang sinasabi niya, Section 4 is void for vagueness because it can punish even an act that is not by itself illegal. Also, Attorney Jokno was also arguing this. Ang sinasabi ni Attorney Jokno, halimbawa, a rally is not illegal, di ba? Pero it will become punishable if there is an intent to cause harm, to kill, to destroy public infrastructure and all of that, di ba? Then it becomes terrorism. Then it becomes a problem, di ba? Then it becomes a crime. So, ang sinasabi ni Justice Leonen, are you saying that a rally that causes death should not be punishable? Ang sinasabi, ina-argue ni Attorney Jokno, kasi dito, it is intent that is being punished, basically, because the act plus the intent, yes, but the person who identifies that the intent or interprets that intent is the police officer, and that could be abused. So, nahihinaan ako dun sa argument na yon. But, that was also reiterated by Attorney Molo, and he was saying na it infringes on our rights. And one of those rights is to rally. One of those rights is to speak out publicly. And the anti-terrorism law suppresses those rights. And sinasabi ni Justice Leonen, are you saying that if those rights are exercised with malicious and criminal intent to destroy property or to kill somebody, then that should not be declared illegal? And that is that I think is the part where things started to look a little dim for Attorney Molo. But Tuesday is another day, and I'm sure some of them might try to catch up. Let's see. Sabi ni Lawrence Manuel, parang pareho ang kahihinatnan ng oral arguments on petitions against ATL sa oral arguments nung sa LGBT petition by Attorney Jesus Falsis, mababasura because of lack of both personal and actual cases. That's possible, yes. Madam, paano po pag-favor sa terorista nagpanig decision ng Supreme Court? Di po ako nakapag-negative, pero nagpaka-negative. Pero paano kung pwedeng gawin ng ating executive? Anong pwedeng gawin ng ating executive and legislative? Well, they can create a new law. Ang sinasabi, that was one of the arguments. Ang sinasabi ni Attorney Molo, and I think on this part I agree, it was a very specific repeal in the law, in the anti-terrorism law. So pag ni-repeal yung batas, which repealed the Human Security Act, then the Human Security Act is reinstated. Yun nga lang, it's not a very good law, so the legislature will have to come up with a new law that will pass constitutional muster and make the corrections. So, can the N-Bank basura the case and declare it lack of merit since ang hina ng arguments nila? Well, yes, but first they have to hear everybody's arguments. Yeah, but they can do that. Sabi ni Maria Lani Burka, I like Justice Carandang when she asked Nery Colmenares, can terrorism be prevented without surveillance? Do you agree? Well, actually, yes, I agree. And that was an excellent point on the part of Justice Carandang. And the reason I wasn't discussing it was because I didn't find any merit to the discussions of Attorney Colmenares. Not that I don't like him. He's actually a very nice guy. But I found that his position is very weak. So, but that's a personal opinion, okay? For instance, he couldn't find a legal basis to saying that the 14-day period is illegal or unconstitutional. The Constitution doesn't talk about the length of time, di ba? It is provided in the revised penal code, and there's nothing in the Constitution that says that the Congress cannot make it a longer period. Now, what about surveillance? Justice Carandang was asking Attorney Colmenares, don't you think there are safeguards? You have to get a warrant. And here, the safeguard is to establish probable cause, which is a higher evidentiary requirement than other warrants for wiretapping. Kasi meron tayong anti-wiretapping law. The law doesn't say bawal ang wiretapping. It says bawal ang wiretapping without a warrant, and you can only get a warrant for particular cases. At in-include na natin doon kasi yung mga yun, national security crimes, mga rebellion, sedition, and kidnapping, and now terrorism. But for crimes, for terrorism, para makakuha ng warrant, you have to prove probable cause that a crime has probably been committed or is being committed, and this person probably committed it using the standard of a diligent man or an ordinary person will look at these facts and say, well, there's probably a crime and this person probably committed it. It's not the same for other warrants, for other wiretapping. Hindi kailangan ng probable cause yun. So, mataas ang evidentiary requirement dito. And that's what Justice Carandang was trying to elicit from Attorney Colmenares. What she was saying was, how can you say that it's dangerous when there are so many safeguards? Sabi ni Roldan Danronoco, Justice Carandang, pag di siya satisfied sa sagot, ang bilis niya magsabi ng next. Katulad ni Lagman, pautal-utal, nakakabagot. Oo, mayroong mga hindi nasagot si Congressman Lagman. Okay? Mula ngayon, kasama ng is that not correct sa mga comments ko. Sabi Ma'am Christina, talaga, oh. Okay. Watching from Angeles City, Pampanga, si Black Raspberries. Naubo ko doon. Guys, kung hindi pa kayo nakakapag-subscribe, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. At saka, Reese, pahing water, please. Can you ask Abby to send me some water? Inuubo ko. Okay. Sabi ni Ma'am Lucila Restor, sana si Attorney Trix ang prof ko sa law noon kasi noon tinutulugan ko lang prof ko kahit patero siya. Grabe. No matter how antok I was, I never fell asleep in class out of sheer terror. Totoo yan. What should be the end result of the oral argument? The submission of memoranda, and then the court will make a decision. First, on whether or not the case should be dismissed outright because there is no cause of action. And then second, if there is, on the merits. Thank you. Sabi ni Tatay Strauss Fernandez, paranoia, impersonal, or partisan prejudice does not qualify as grounds for declaring a law unconstitutional. Pathetic, ain't it? Well, there's that. Yun nga, ang sinasabi nga ni Justice Leonen is parang pinupoliticize ninyo yung court by coming to the court now. Parang sinasabi, he was saying also that you're also saying that the executive, which has already filled in the gaps by creating an IRR, what you're saying is that is not enough for you. And how can you say that's not enough when you have no case? There is no victim here. And in fact, there are many instances when you could claim to be victims. What about the red tagging? What about the UP Accord? What about what about the declarations? That's me. I'm making dagdag that one. But, diba, he was saying there are many instances where you could have gone to court, you could have brought this as a cause of action, but you did not. You came here on a facial challenge. Diba? Sabi ni Josh Espiritu, yun po. May medical report yung case na yan para sa malaman kung talagang na-torture sila. Is that not correct? Yes, of course, you will have to prove the facts, and that's one of the facts. You cannot go up into the Supreme Court and try to prove your facts. That's why it's called a regional trial court, because the court is where these facts are tested. Your testimony, your evidence is tested to determine if this is the truth, if these facts can be established. Sabi ni Luar Cubal, very good talaga si Yohanan attorney kasi sobrang very good na inuupo ng petition ni BBM, kaya nga galit si attorney diga doon. Pag nagsisinungaling through lie detector yung IP, edi sampalin, sabi ni attorney no case. A lie detector test, or how do you call this, cannot be admitted as evidence. It's not admissible. Sabi po ni Leonan yan, dapat yung factual case nila, yung dalawang item i-complain. Yes, that could also be the case. Pero, that has to go through court, ha? That has to go through trial in the regional trial court so that there's a reason for you to go up to the Supreme Court and say, look, we have been, these facts are established, we have been tortured, these people tortured it, declare this unconstitutional because it is the law that allowed them to do that to us. Sabi ni Lloyd, Jokno at Lagman na naman, easy win ulit para kay Soljan Kalida. Well, Attorney Jokno did make some good points today also. So, I don't know though if it will be enough, particularly kung walang standing, di ba? Like tayo at share, sabi ni Ma'am Marilu Torrejos, yun na lang pakonsuelo natin kay attorney sa kanyang pagbibigay liwanag sa ating mga batas. Yan. Hi kay Richard Prieto, he's watching from Singapore. Oo, we do have a PayPal and we have the super chat here, but if you don't want to do that or cannot do that or whatever, you're not required to do that. Ang request na lang namin is to like and share and get more people to subscribe. And that's it. Hindi po sila aakyat sa korte, sabi ni Ahmed, malalaman lang na sila ay mga terorista. Bahahaha. Sabi ni Ma'am Stella Mariliara, I learned not to like Justice Leonen because some of issues that I heard over social media. But kanina na-impress ako sa questioning niya. Coming from someone na little know-how lang. Okay. And that's the fun part. Because, di ba, sa Karambola, I try to refrain from bashing him because he was my professor in 2 classes in the College of Law. And a lot of my litigation work is due, and all of those successes were due entirely, at least sa umpisa, were due entirely to the discipline that he instilled in us. Not just the discipline in working on your cases, but the discipline of thinking that is involved in litigation work. He also taught us how to negotiate. So that he made us read up on negotiations. He made us read Sun Tzu for to determine strategies in litigation cases. Justice Leonen is actually brilliant. He would not have lasted so long in the Supreme Court and still had the respect even of people who don't like him. He does elicit that kind of respect because he is a good lawyer and he is a good justice. We disagree with his political alignments. We disagree with some of his decisions, and we disagree particularly with the way he approaches BBM's case. But that doesn't detract from the fact that he is very smart and quite brilliant. And that's what I'm saying, di ba? Also, when I talk to you about UP, you don't make enemies out of an entire university of people you don't know and people who are all different from each other. You can't make a sweeping generalization and say, bobo kasi yung mga taga-UP, or you can't say mga terorista lahat ng mga taga-UP or mga NPA lahat ng taga-UP, because these things, they tend to surprise you later on. The new justice of the Supreme Court is also from UP, the Justice Joseph. Sabi ni Bobby Fajardo, I hope Justice Leonen's brilliance in oral arguments can also be seen in his case resolutions. Actually, they are. But sometimes we will not agree with the decision that he makes. But if you read the arguments and the research that goes into his pleadings, into his resolutions, you will find that he does good work. Sabi ni Renz Pugeda, parang mas ready pa magtanong yung mga justices kaysa kahandaan ng mga petitioners sumagot. To be fair, no matter how ready you are, sometimes the justices will throw you for a loop. Sabi ni Attorney No Case,
Sana magaling din siya sa pet. Kaso nabili na ni... As per the report, dating NPA sila, sabi ni Josh Espiritu, I think he's referring to the ITAS, na bumalik noong July tapos inaresto uli ng August. Sabi ng CNN yan. Yun ang intindi ko sa report. Okay. Sabi ni Elmer Bernardino, I was laughing out loud when Attorney Molo argued against Leonen mentioning, if I apply your line of thinking, just like the most expensive noted po of ABS-CBN. Yeah. Hi kay Ma'am Leonor Gabawa, nakaabat daw siya sa live. Bakit po ang ikli lang kanina ng oral argument? Nakakadakot talaga, aabot ng hating gabi ang first session. I think that the justices just chose certain issues to clarify. The rest kasi can be seen already from the pleadings. They don't have to make the lawyers rehash all of their arguments, just the ones that the justices need clarification. Maraming salamat. Sino yung nagbigay? Hi kay Ma'am Maria Teresa Feliciana, pang butong pakwan lang ang nakayanan. Si Madam talaga, that's more butong pakwan than I will be seeing, have ever seen. Sabi ni Ma'am Ronnie Lynn, I kinda want you as my prof. Sabi ni Josh Espiritu, inasagot niya si Jemshid, not complete though, but the photo was there that they filled it and probably asked the contents. Anyway, i-file yan sa SC and sa website so we can see the details of the petition. Ayan. Sorry, napaano ako. Ang dami na palang Parang mas ready. I've read that part. Hindi po ako seen this. Teka, parang ang dami kong na-miss. Hindi po ako nagpapaka-negative. Takot lang talaga sila dahil exposed na silang lahat ngayon, sabi ni Putong Inamoy. Sabi ni Checks and Lines, can we assume na mindado yung kaso ng mistaken identity ng dalawang farmers and consider it irrelevant sa oral arguments? Parang obvious kasi. Sorry if this was answered na. They have to go to trial. I don't know if the court will accept it. Sabi ni Renz Pugyada, ang init nung pag-compare ni Justice Leone ng inciting to terrorism sa inciting to sedition, nasunog yung counsel. Yes, I agree. Agree po ako sa inyo, professional lecturer, sabi ni Inola Reveroff. Malinaw ang mga paliwanag ninyo. Ay, marami akong natututunan. Ako pala yung akala ko si Justice Leone. Madam, di po ako nagpapaka-negative. Paano po ang SCI nag-favor sa terorista? We've answered that one. May free lecture kami, sabi ni Mickey Ella, dahil sa inyo. Thank you po. Puro buhat ng bangko, sabi ni Putong Inamoy. Sino yun? Sabi ni Francis Ong, you're the only ones I listen to. And Lauren says, magandang gabi. Sabi ni Putong Inamoy, pinagyabang na mayaman si Orion. Uy, kayo talaga. I don't think that we should... I don't like talking about him. Sabi ni Ma'am Emily Korsaki, ang natututunan ko kay Athletics ay ang sagot sa wrong information is more information na lagi kong ginagamit. Yan. We don't ask people to shut up. That's why I don't like too much I like heckling people, but I will not shame them into getting off social media. I don't want to destroy people because, di ba, ang sagot nga sa wrong information, if people are spreading wrong information, our duty is to spread the right one and correct it. There's nothing wrong with correcting people even if they're from the other parlor. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that you're wrong. We're all human, and at some point in our lives, we make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes are horrible, and they could destroy you. The idea is that you make up for those mistakes, diba? So I'm hoping that you, at some future point, maybe Attorney Jokno will be defending a case that we all like, and that maybe we'll be given a chance to see his good points. Like we are seeing the good points of Justice Leonen now. I don't really like to paint people as black and white unless they really dig in and they just want to be enemies. And in which case, sige, I'll give you the fight you're asking for. But as much as possible, I don't like making enemies out of people that you can bring into your cause. 'Di ba? Yun yung sinasabi ko eh. Let's not be divisive. Mag-i-election na sa 2022. May mga tao dyan. Hanggang ngayon, galit pa sa Imperial Manila. Eh, ang Imperial Manila, ilan ng boto? Di ba lahat tayo gusto natin yung kung sino man yung i-endorso ng Pangulo, ideally si Sara, BBM, all of these people that we like. Pero, how are we going to win anything if we keep fighting with the people whom we can get naman on our side? Diba? Huwag ganon. Kaaway nyo na yung mga Tagalog, kaaway Imperial Manila, kaaway yung ang mga taga-UB. Diba? I mean, do we really need to make that many enemies? Huwag naman. Ha? Yung dilaw na parlor, yun, pwede. 3% lang yun eh. Magkakaroon din ng voting sa SC yan, kaya di talaga magkakatulad tingin ng mga justices. Since napanood ko kayo dito at sa Karambola, naging interested ako sa nangyayari sa Pilipinas, sabi ni Raymond G. Kaya attorney, sabi ni Fernando Berlaan, gustong-gusto kong makinig sa inyo, natututo ako kahit dahil undergraduate ako ng high school. Sige lang, tuloy nyo lang, mas marami pang matuto sa inyo. Yeah, that's why the thing that we ask for is to get people to subscribe and like and share and all of that. They don't have to believe me, di ba? But at least we're talking. Why is it parating right ang mga against sa government ang mention nila? Paano naman ang rights ng mga ordinary Filipino na gusto ng katahimikan? Like mga pag-rally at panggulo nila at vandalism. Okay, let's get something straight. Rallies are not illegal. And sometimes, they are inconvenient for us. But look, this is how it works. We have freedom of speech. We have freedom to rally, which is part speech and part assembly. Two rights kagad ang involved dyan. The right to petition for regress of grievances, 3 rights na ang involved kagad dyan. These also, aside from the fact that we can petition, we can be heard, and maybe change some things, these also act as pressure valves. Di ba minsan, there are things that are beyond our control that government should have been, able to control. I apologize for that. Government should have been able to control, pero nagagalit tayo, nagngingit-ngit tayo. The right to speak and the right to rally and petition for redress of grievances, these are safety valves. Para yung pressure valves ba? Para we can let off steam. Because when we can speak, when we can petition, when we can focus our energies on getting things to change, then we're doing that. We're doing something. Pag hindi natin ginawa yun, nagngingit-ngit tayo, and then one day you snap, you pick up a gun, and you take to the hills. It's those people, the people who take to the hills, the people who become insurgents, the people who become rebels. They're the ones who have no place to put their anger because they're angry, there's injustice, they have not had any benefits that the government has promised to them, they can't get jobs, they can't fit in, it can be various reasons, but it is because they feel that they don't belong. That's one of the major reasons why people can be recruited. It's this feeling of being left out. And that's why we don't want for people to be left out. But as much as possible. We can't help it. Sometimes there will be people who do that. Who will do that. There will be people who will be angry at you no matter what you do. Whether you're good, you're bad, you make mistakes, you don't make mistakes. There's some people who will just be plain angry. And we don't need to save everybody. But what we want is to get as many people together to see things this particular way so we can change things. Diba? And we can all paddle the same boat, hopefully going into a bright future. That's why we do this. And we don't compel you then to do something a particular way. No? If, for instance, there are many here who are pro-Fed-Parl, there are some here who are pro-Parl only, and then there's some people who are fine with the way things are. And for me, it doesn't matter. For me, we change the things that we can, and that's an accomplishment. We hope for things that are greater than what we can change now, and we keep going. Diba? Sabi ni Josh, mahina arguments nila when asked by the justices. They don't answer the question, but they go around and answer something else. Ayan. Lahat po ba ng mga justices ay magtatanong din kay Solgen? Well, it will depend on which justices want to be clarified on the side of the Solgen. Not everybody will, I think. But sometimes, pagka either when you have a really good case or a really bad one, then all the justices might ask you questions. Good evening, watching daw from Jensen, si Serafin Villodres III. Watching from Jensen siya, ano po ba advantage ng oral argument? Is it necessary? Not always. Some cases can be solved simply by the filing of pleadings. But there are some questions kasi, the justices want a question and answer because they want to be clarified of the issue. And a lot of the times they hold these oral arguments publicly so that the people can benefit also from hearing all of these arguments and all of these laws. Sabi ni Justice Leonen, the law on the IRR was written clearly. Mas vague nga yung inciting to sedition pero doon sila natakot. I agree. Galing niya doon eh. Watching from the cold state of Michigan, USA, si Ma'am Yvonne Bremer. I love watching your blog in Carambola. Uy, thank you. You're brilliant, Attorney Trixie. Is that not correct? Sabi nila, learn with teacher Jeff. Sabi ni Ma'am Mindy, I love those antique pieces behind you. Yes, the one with the carving, the chest over here, that's Tagbanwa. It's from Palawan. The other one is Palawan, but that's from the cultural community. The second one is also from Palawan, but that's a modern one. The third one, is a bulol from Mayoyaw, but it's an unusual one because it's a pregnant woman and it's very rare. So these are the things that I really like. And the over there where you can't see is a large crystal. It's the largest that I have. And then over here on the other end where I should put that away, that still has a Christmas decoration. That's a three-legged kettle, a pot. It's the kind of cauldron that witches use, a smaller version. There are many sizes of cauldrons. One of these days I want a big one where you can actually sit in it. Follow-up sa AITA case, sabi ni Josh. So the Supreme Court will not consider the AITA case not be included in the petition. Is that not correct? They might not. The facts kasi still have to be proven. Kaya po matagal ang reflections ni Justice Leonen. Kayo talaga. Bakit yung mga IP rumekta sa Supreme Court, pwede naman sila pumunta sa PAW sa lower court? Well, the PAW is the representative. That's the lawyer. Pero, yes, they have to prove their case first in the RTC or they could have gone to the RTC first. Sabi ni Ma'am Tricia, mag-like naman yung di pa naka-like dyan. 760 na po tayo, wala pang 500 yung likes. Nga naman. Sabi ni anak ni Bunny, hi, lagi ako nakikinig sa inyo at mas nililiwanagan na naiintindihan ko pa kayo kaysa sa mga petitioners sa oral argument kasi puro English. Masarap lang sa tenga pero walang laman at sustansya. I hope my English is not like that. Mga pulahan, walang habeas sa fascist tagging. O nga naman. Like and share po kayo mga ka-Luminous. Sabi ni Ma'am Lucila, watching from Paris, si Ma'am Beatrice Prudente. Art Alviar says, si Atty. Jokno, baka gagawa na naman ng peking kaso. I don't think he intended that, but he really did make a bad mistake with not knowing who his clients are. Natawa ako dun na nairita si Leonen sa foreign jurisprudence or quotes na sinasite ni Molo. Ingat na lang po kayo lagi. Oo. Hanga na sana ako kay Justice Leonen kanina kaso walang salin. Uy, kayo talaga. Sabi ni Mommy Ruthie, I just hope that the justices will see the importance of the ATL for all Filipinos. I think that they do because they see naman the international implications of this. Sabi ni Ma'am Esther, nakaka-high blood yung mga makakaliwang grupo. Oo nga. Naku po, kung si Kiko daw yan, sabi ni Chris, the Pinoy accountant, yung humarap sa mga justices, malamang matutusta. Kay Lacson pa lang, barbecue na siya. Bagay ka maging professor, sabi ni Ma'am Jen. Galing mo mag-explain. Where I used to teach in the College of, in the Fine Arts Department of the Ateneo de Manila University. But it doesn't jive anymore with their politics. Appeal to emotions, ang arguments ng mga petitioners kaya naging nalelection ng court, sabi ni Omni Slash. So, sabi ni Attorney No Case Doc Trixie Cruz-Angeles, hindi pa ako doctor. Hindi pa nga tapos yung masters ko, 3 units pa, hindi pa matapos-tapos, walang professor Sabi ni Chris Bilawen, ba't parang yung pabor sa ATL, may feel na sila na sila yung la resistance. Oo nga. No? Bella Chow. Baka strategy yan ng mga dilaw to break us apart. Yes, so we must guard ourselves to not break apart. Diba? And to be patient. We can all, for instance, share the same politics but not agree on the details, and that's okay. We don't have to agree on the details. Diba? Sabi ni Ma'am Sherry Ann Pedro, salamat sa inyo. I appreciate our culture more. Loving the Philippines from afar, Antwerp, Belgium. I'm reading now A Country Imperiled, and next is A History of the Philippines as recommended by Sir JP. Yes, JP is actually a better historian. Ang rally ba pwedeng gawin lang sa pinipiling lugar, for may provision ba ang batas kung saan lang pwede? Actually, there are freedom parks na hindi ka pwedeng hindi pa payagan mag-rally. Pagka dun sa mga public places, lalong-lalo na sa mga kalye, kailangan yun ng permit, and the city can say, sige, not on this day or another day, ganyan, or not here, no, and they can refuse to give you a permit to regulate the place and the time lang. But they can't deny you to go to a rally. But yes, the city government, the municipal government, the LGU, can actually say where you can rally. Bakit pala audio lang ang pwede i-share sa public? Wala po bang option na makita din natin ang video nila? I'm not sure why the Supreme Court prefers audio only. Good evening from Dublin. Ang hindi mag-like, magiging kamukha ni Attorney Jokno. Uy, grabe kayo pag di nag-like si Legman. Grabe kayo. Huwag niyo po patakbuhin sa politics si Attorney. Sabi ni Ian, baka mawawala ang Luminous community natin sa busy bee sa public works. Pero naalala ko, sabi mo, tatakbo ka lang kung wala ng Smartmatic sa next elections. At saka kung may pera, ang dami-daming ano niyan. But ganito yan I would prefer not to. Okay? Kung pumabor ang hatol ng Supreme Court sa ATL, final na po ba yun? Hindi na pwedeng mag-appeal? Wala na pong appeal. Yun nga yung joke namin na mga lawyers. Pag sinabi, ang ganda mo para kang Supreme Court. Talaga? Bakit? Wala kang appeal. Ganon. No, motion for recon lang. Pero, a different set of facts. Kunwari, i-dismiss to. They constitutional. It's presumed constitutional. But if a case comes along where mayayanig yung constitutionality nito, ito yung sinasabi ni Justice Leon. And if you come with a case and that case has merits, yes. In fact, the law can be declared unconstitutional later on when we find out how it works, or it can also withstand further challenges, but it can still be challenged. Sabi ni LRG Kaayo, anong itatanong ko daw kay Justice Molo, kay Attorney Molo kung ako one of the justices? I'm not sure if I would even ask questions. Yung iba kasi medyo clear na sa akin yung positions nila. Mag-senador na lang kayo, sabi ni Art Alviar, kasama mo si Attorney Glenn at si Attorney Kidlat, sigurado pas kayong lahat. Kayang-kaya na nilang dalawa yun. Dapat daw sundin kung ano sinabi ni Justice Palma, so baliwalain natin ano nangyari from 1987 to 2021, kaloka si Justice Leone ng Burburn. Ay, totoo yan. But he was a very good professor dahil ganyan siya. Ganyan siya sa class, ganyan siya magtanong sa recitation namin. Always watching your lives, Yana the Mongrel. Thank you for sharing your time to educate us. Ano off-topic, ano pwedeng gawin para makakuha ng passport for seniors with no birth certificate? You just have to prove the birth. You need a lawyer. You'll need a lawyer to help you do that. If you can't afford a lawyer, you can ask to be advised in any of the free legal aid places. Tony, mukhang kailangan ng refresher course bukod sa MCLE, mga abogadong dilaw. Is that not correct? Kayo talaga. Natatawa at natutuwa ako, makitang likes. Ay, talaga. Galing nyo, Yay, thanks sa pagsagot. The Jacques Wong says, I now understand bakit sinasabing magaling si Leonen. In fairness naman. Oo naman. Kailangan natin yung mga may utak sa Senado tulad ni Atty. Kawawang Pinas kung katulad ni Nakiko, Risa, Joel, Laila et al. I'm sure that as long as we vote for yung mga matitino, ako hazard ko I'm going to vote for Atty. Larry, Atty. Glenn, Doc Willie Ong. Ayan, yung mga yan. Sabi ni Alpax the Great, natuto na naman ako ng one-liner, gandang Supreme Court. Mag-like naman kayo yung nanonood na iba, pero at least zero dislike hindi gaya ng singer na si Pangilinan. Ay, hindi ko nakinig ng karambola kanina. Nagkamali ako ng dinig ng sinasabi ni huwag niyo akong pagalitan. Yung sinasabi ni Attorney Kidlat. Sabi niya, etong si Pangalinan. Sabi ko, si Tangalinan. Tapos yun yung dumikit. Grabe. Sabi niya, yun, sabi ni Bobby Fajardo, she just read Yusek Badoy's post, Euphemia Kulyamat declared persona non grata by her own tribe. Naku, how can she represent IPs? Okay, binoto ko sila, kaso di pumasok. Don't worry, next time around, mas united dapat tayo and make sure let's vote for Attorney Glenn, Attorney Larry, and Doc Willie. Hindi masasayang ang votes natin. Alam niyo, hindi ako naniniwala sa sinasabi nilang sayang na votes, komot hindi nanalo. I disagree with that. We vote because we tell the other politicians, I would rather use my vote on this person rather than on you. We need constitutionalist justice, sec, not with political interests. Oo. Ngayon lang po naka-attend si Anne-Marie Lunday. Naku, maganda na naman ang usapan bukas sa Karambola, daming tawa bukas. So, kailangan ipakalat pa natin, sabi ni Ma'am Mickey Ella, ako din, binoto ko sila. Sabi ni Abby De Jesus, minsan lang ako makaabot ng live because of the time differences, especially sa Karambola. Please extend my greetings also to Karambolista tomorrow. Solid follower from Italy. Okay. Uy, maraming salamat. Gabi na at may Karambola pa tayo bukas ng umaga. Maraming salamat sa pagsubaybay. Sabi ni Sir Gavin Elcano, mahilig bang manigaw si Leone nung nagtuturo pa siya? Never siya naninigaw. Never. At least not sa klase namin, di siya di tumataas ang boses niya. He could be impatient with us sometimes, pero never siya nanigaw. But di mag-petition sila na wag ituloy at bakit terorista ba sila o mga terorista silang kakampi o sila mismong terorista? Sino yan? Kung nanalo si Doc Willie Ong, hindi sana tayo napagsamantalahan ngayong epidemic. Well, actually, I would have preferred Doc Willie to be Secretary of Health. Kaya lang, it's too late na. Even if palitan si Duque with Doc Willie, isang year na lang to go. So, wag na lang. Petition na lang ni BBM ang problema ni Leonen. Yes. And let's see, kasi nag-submit na naman siya may linabas po si John Marcanlas about Marcos and Robredo. Nabasa mo na ba? Opo, pinag-discuss na namin sa Karambola kaninang umaga. So, kaya di sila nanalo at mismong pati si Mocha ay dahil yan sa pressure sa Comelec na di sila panalunin. Well, posible din po yon. But remember na ipanalo natin si Tatay Digong. And that was because we all voted for him. Diba? We were all united in that. And we can do that again for the people we want to put in the Senate. I-shut out na natin yung mga dilaw. Wag na yung maka-return of the comeback si Risa, si Kiko, and all of that. Kung pwede, wag na. Si Bam Aquino, I think, might try again for another position. May mga tao tayong there are other better suited people for the Senate. Diba? And let's vote for them. Dapat yung solid na votes. Yung better not to fill up your ballot at ipanalo na lang natin yung mga gusto nating ipanalo. That way, hindi tayo nagdadagdag ng boto dun sa mga ayaw natin. Or sa mga hindi natin masyadong feel. Don't feel na sayang. Okay? Maraming salamat, sabi ni Alan Joel Aniceto, sa makabuluhang talakayan. Ingat po parate. What if we want you for Senate? Sabi ni Elmer Bernardino. I don't think there's enough of you to do that. But there are more people who actually want me to stay here vlogging. Of course, yung kabilang parlor, they don't want to hear me or they don't want to talk about me or to even, let's not talk about them. But, ang saya natin dito, di ba? Okay. Sabi ni Carlos, just to get off my chest, pakisabi kay Attorney Ahmed, disappointed ako sa kanya nung mag-isa lang siya sa tambayan, naging masyado siyang mabait at soft. Next time, be natural at hard pag solo na siya uli. People are different on different days also. It's like we have moods, don't you think? And it will also depend on the topic. Kasi ako, nakita niyo na ba akong galit? Yes, I'm sure some of you have. And mabilis ako magsalita pag galit ako. But, the next day, hindi na ako galit. So, there will be days like that. Okay, sabi ni Demetrius Morales, last two comments, and we will be united once more with Inday Sara. Okay, I also voted for Doc Willie, sabi ni Dortz. He has a big heart for our country, especially our health. Yes. Okay? So, maraming salamat. There's Karambola tomorrow morning. Don't forget. At saka tinuthrottle po ang Luminous. So, please don't forget to like, share, follow, and get other people to like, share, follow, comment, share the page para mas marami po tinuthrottle po kasi kami ngayon. So, hindi nyo pa kami masyadong makikita. So, please make sure to visit the page very often. Tingnan nyo yung mga ang reach namin is still the same. Pero yung ibang mga reactions na natatanggal at saka yung ibang mga follows na natatanggal. So please always constantly check kung naka-follow pa rin kayo at nasa favorites pa rin kami. Dahil favorite ko kayong lahat. Good night everybody. Have a good rest and everybody who's off to work in the other parts of the world. I hope you all have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow on Karambola and on bukas, Wednesday. Karambola lang tomorrow. We'll see you then.